Right down front here, Sam.
Kevin, how do you guys get better on third down?
Practice.
More specifically?
No, I think we just have to execute. I think, there are little things that here or there make third down percentage better. Auburn's shown the ability to be a pretty good defensive team too. We got to be better offensively, but third down percentage has a lot to do with down and distance. What those look like, whether they're third and shorts, or they're third and mediums, or third and longs. And by that meaning, the way we look at it, 4 to 6 medium, and really nowadays 3rd and 3 is not a short down. It's, so 2 or less, and then 3 is kind of its own deal. 8 plus being long yardage. So you got different route structures. You've got different play selection. Obviously, your percentages can go up in 3rd and short, the shorter that those distances are. So it's more than just third down alone. It has to do with a lot of different things. We need to be better there, but we're also making a lot of first downs. So that can be skewed a little bit also. So yeah, we recognize where we are, and I said, Sam, after the game, we got a lot to work on. And we're trying to get better every week and address our problems, not necessarily looking at what everybody else is doing or who our opponent is, but working within. And, short yardage, not short yardage, but third down conversion in red zone are things that weren't very good last week. And we recognize that, and I know it was kind of a not really smart-ass answer, but practice. It's the only way we can. We've got scheme, and we had balls that were a little bit high. We had some miscues. One time we had a back go the wrong way. Freshman comes right into the game and short yardage and goes the wrong way on third down. So those are high-pressure situations, particularly on the road. And usually on the road, that's the loudest down during the deal. So, be able to communicate may have been more of an issue looking back at it because we used a timeout once I did. But, we've got to be more comfortable in that situation, and the only way to do that was great experience for our guys. With the people that were there, with a new quarterback, even though he's an old guy, but a guy hadn't played, he's played his 3rd game in 19 months. And a lot of guys out there that were new, particularly the guy snapping the ball and the interior communicating. So it's more than just plays. It's players. It's everybody, and the only way to get better at that is practice.
How has the improvement of your defense affected your decision-making on things like 4th down and field goals and things like that?
You heard me. I think it has a feel of the game. Sometimes that changes. I said after the game it affected maybe some play selection. It also affected maybe a field position game, particularly the way our specialists have played. Braden Mann has been kicking the ball off kicking it out of the end zone. Chapuka's had a really solid year of punting, which helps, and our coverage has been good. And Daniel has kept getting better. So. When your defense is solid as it's been, which it has not been the case here, you can manage the game a little bit differently. Does that mean every game is going to be like that? Probably not. But certainly it was a different look for us last week.
Go down front, Brent, then Ben and Gabe.
What's it say about a guy like Christian Kirk who takes a hit like that? Earlier he told us, he said, man, I'm glad it wasn't targeting or anything like that. That's just old-fashioned football. Then he gets up, catches punts for you, catches passes. Yeah,
he's a football player. He was more upset than anything. He didn't like laying on the ground, at all. I mean, he was getting off the bus, and I said, "Are you all right?" And he goes, "Man, they got me on a vine." So I guess he doesn't like that. He likes to be on the vine where he's running away from people and scoring. So, it just tells you a lot more. He'll be mad because I said that, but that's a good He's a great kid, and he works hard at it, and he appreciates good football. And there was no complaint. There's no complaint from our end. It's good football play, and it was clean hit. So he understands that, and I think, like you said, the hidden yardage that he saved us over the last couple of weeks in punts and the ball not hitting the ground and getting up there and fielding punts that were 37, 38 yards, and the coverage is right there. Instead of letting that ball hit the ground and go 20 more yards and keeping us, above the 25, 30-yard line, and the ball not being back inside the 20 to start is a big deal. And so to go to your point too, Sam, things like that, the decision-making process, I thought he did a great job. I thought Speedy, even on the first one, which was a weird hop, but just to call off the return, a year or two ago, he'd have tried to do something with that back there. We've been scrambling around in the end zone on the 1-yard line trying to make a play. So, these guys are growing up. I'm not saying that they're not going to make mistakes, but I am saying that they've, the mentality's a little bit different. They've played football, even though they're sophomores, juniors. They played a lot of football and been in a lot of different places. And so the decision-making process has been pretty good up to this point out of those guys. And Christian, the way he approaches the game, I think you said it all. I mean, he likes to play the game. He loves Saturdays, and he loves practice, and he respects people. He respects how the game's played, and I think he plays that way all the time.
Second row, Ben, then Gabe, and then True.
Coach, a couple of the guys, you mentioned after the game about not being able to close well in the fourth quarter, something you want to see, and a couple of the guys today said y'all just kind of took your foot off the pedal. How do you end up correcting that?
Practice.
More specifically?
We're working on it.
More practice.
More practice. I mean, we haven't played a perfect game, so we've played pretty good at different times, but we haven't played a perfect game. And I would be more concerned if we had played a perfect game at this point. The ability to improve is there. Sean Washington played 87 plays, and I'll be honest with you, when they put Franklin in there, he's at a different speed than anybody on the field. So. That had a lot to do with the yards made. And let's not get it confused. When he came in, that was a different offense and a different guy running at a different speed. And the majority of the yards that they made there was done that way. So that had something to do with it too. I'm not gonna make excuses for that, but that had a lot to do with it. That was a different offense. They didn't hardly attempt to pass, and he was running up and down the field. We were in a different defense, too. At that point, time is more important than yardage, and we had that discussion, Chief. So the ability for him to get yardage and not put points on the board quickly was a recipe for winning at that point.
Go Gabe, then True, Christie, and Daryl.
Coach, I want to ask you about.
They're all lined up today.
That's it, yes, sir.
All right.
I want to ask you about Travion Williams, if you could speak to his continued emergence and also what he brings you, that other element.
Well, you guys saw him in the spring, and I think even the spring game was on television. I had to stop the game and because he put the ball on the ground. He's fast, and so he takes great pride in what he does. You saw him, cover the ball up a couple times and try to go get a first down. But he's definitely got home run speed. And I said from day one that we're going to need all these running backs in this league. Keith was okay early forward. I thought James White in a critical part of the game, in the third quarter when we had to get control of the game, his carries were critical carries of 4, 5, 6 yards moving the pile. And so he's got to be able to do that for us because, Travion's he's not built that way. He's more of a high split, 190-pound guy. James White's 220 pounds. And so when he went in the game, it's kind of an unsung deal, but there were a couple critical carries, in that third quarter to keep the clock rolling and keep us moving down the field and get first down. So, he's got a lot of talent, as we just saw, and been a run like that in a while here. He's got real speed, and he's got good hands. So, he's going to continue to get better as he develops, but we're going to need James White. We're going to need Keith Ford. Everybody's seen Bussey and Etway too in this league. And the competition and the ability to rotate those guys, to get them fresh. The first last week, everybody wants to know, well, we need to give Travion the ball more. The first week, well, you guys need to give Keith Ford the ball more. So, I can live with that right now. If those guys are all playing that way, then we'll take the who needs to get the ball more criticism, because all those guys are playing pretty good right now.
Go to the middle there, True, then Christie, then to the back, Darrell.
Jermaine Eliminor has a pretty unique story. I was curious as to what some of your first impressions were of him a few years ago, and what's it say about his work ethic that he is where he is right now?
Jermaine was highly recruited, and mostly almost by every team we're playing, actually. So that's a whole nother story about recruiting with Jermaine. He was one of the top junior college players in the country, even though he was from London. I had to wait to do the home visit until his whole family got back into New Jersey. His sister was in school, and people were all over the world. And I knew we had a chance because he wanted his sister to be back from London and everybody to get back in the house in New Jersey. And so, I didn't think he would want all those people there if he wasn't going to come to school here. And it was true, because I think he. At one time he was committed to Arkansas. At one time he was committed to UCLA. One time he was committed to all kinds of places. So he had his pick of where to go to school, Ohio State. And he came here, and I think because of where he was from, he didn't really understand or get the nuances of football. He didn't played that much. And I told the guys it was a joke, but we redshirted in one of the best. He and Avery were one of probably the top two junior college tackles in the country that came here, and redshirted them, and developed them through strength and conditioning, learning systems, and learning football. And I made the joke, people were getting frustrated with Jermaine, and how he didn't really understand certain things or the sense of urgency. And I said, it's about like me understanding cricket. I have no idea, what's going on, and that's been a learning process for him. But he's found a home at right tackle. I think our tackles last week, for the most part, did a great job with against our whole offensive line against a really, really solid front in the SEC. So everybody was kind of waiting to see what was going to happen there. We started off a little shaky. Trevor made some yards with his feet, and then we were able to settle down. With the exception of they schemed us and moved Lawson inside on Prater and got the big boy outside on Jermaine, and that's a different rush. And that's what I'm talking about right there. You'd think you'd have common sense to say, hey, this guy is 310 pounds, not 255, and you set the same way. And so he kind of pushed him back and got the sack early. But once he figured out, hey, number 1 is 310 and number 55 is not as big, I can change a little bit. That's where he is as a player. But he's certainly talented, and as one pro scout told me, he said, 72 doesn't make it look that hard. I mean, he's very athletic for a 330-pound guy. Not your prototypical tackle, but he's one of the strongest guys on the team. Benches up around 500 and something, and pretty nimble. So he's really just getting going, and we're going to need him to continue to get better every week, just like our whole line.
To the middle left, Christie. To the back, Darrell.
Do you think that Trevor not losing his job last year and going through what he went through made him a better quarterback when he got a second chance with y'all?
Not that alone.
Can you tell me what you think?
I think he's got. I think it's easier to talk to a guy who is like Trevor, who's 23, who has been through has been at the highest heights and been the MVP of games, and then to lose your job to another really, really good player is one thing, but how you handle it is another thing. I think you can look at that and say it's a coach's fault, or it was Baker's fault, or it was a conspiracy, whatever it is. But, I think in Trevor's case, because of the kind of person he is, he looked in the mirror and said, hey, look, I need to do some things. I can be better. And that's a credit to Lincoln Riley. It's a credit to Bob that, they let him out of there, number one. And number two, him being able to have those conversations now as a 23-year-old and look at the things that have made him really good in situations. And, what we try to do and what we've made a real effort in is trying to eliminate bad football. And, that's not always going to be the case, but there's a conscious effort to do that in practice and with him in particular. And he wants to be great. And this is a second opportunity for him. He knows that. And I said before, Christy, that, he filled a void for us, not just as a quarterback or as a person in that position, but he was a guy who had played the position in big games and understood it, what it looks like, so that when you walk into Auburn, that's not a shock. And be able to handle crowd noise and be able to handle some of the things the way he did to change plays. But we filled a void for him too, and it gave him an opportunity and a second chance to show what he can do on a big stage. And a lot of people don't get that chance. And so he's very, very happy about it. We're happy about it. And, is it perfect? No, but he has been a tremendous teammate. He's been a great leader in this football team, and that's not easy to do coming in January. But more so than anything else, he's working at it to be the best quarterback he can be. And the way he approaches it right now, with an open mind and the way he's able to communicate, gives him an opportunity to maybe eliminate some of that football that created the situation of him losing his job.
Go to the very back, Daryl, and then Suzanne.
Coach, obviously you guys have a lot of momentum going into this ball game, but Arkansas picked up a lot of momentum ending last season, and then they seem like they've picked up where they left off. Can you just talk a little bit about what they bring into this ball game?
Yeah, I don't really care about last season, and I don't think Brett does either. I think what they've got a lot of momentum based on what they're doing this year. It's a good football team. You've got a solid team. You've got guys that our coaches. The coaches voted a number of their players on the preseason All-SEC team. Skipper's been there forever. He's playing tackle now, blocking kicks or centers. Started 16, 17 games. Very physical line. Drew Morgan is another preseason All-SEC pick at wide receiver. That's just on offense, and their two running backs are what they want to do. Jeremy Sprinkle has played a lot of football, one of the top tight ends in this league, 6'6", can catch it, can run. They're going to come at you, and they're going to throw the ball with bootlegs and nakeds. And then defensively, we've seen these. It's kind of interesting. We've seen these same guys for every year since we've been here, since he's been there. Ellis is going to be playing linebacker and another all-league player. And Dietrich Wise is going to be rushing the passer just like he's done the last few years. So, these guys are all league players. They're a veteran football team they've been in a system that has been well coached, that Brett has believed in and has done a great job at Arkansas from the ground up with a philosophy that he believes is a winning formula, just like it was at Wisconsin. And now he's got guys that have been in that system for a while that understand, what's going on. And just like anything else, when you win, you start to have success, and that breeds confidence. So this team is a veteran football team that is well coached, that has a philosophy that is working. And so, you got two teams with a lot of momentum right now, playing in a great venue on Saturday night, and it's going to be a fun ball game.
Go Suzanne, then Olin.
This is kind of an off-the-wall question, but talking about Brett, he gave a presentation in March about using virtual reality in their practices. Have you ever looked into doing stuff like that? He talked about how it really helped with the quarterbacks.
Yeah, we have our own system of doing things with a different product. No.
Go Olin, Ben, and then to the back, Lee, and that'll wrap us up.
Kevin, do you ever get the sense that some of the guys that block Miles might get a little leeway? And does he ever express any frustration? I know he's a different kind of guy, but does he ever, Miles, ever express any frustration about?
No, he doesn't talk about that. He doesn't. He doesn't. He doesn't complain about anything. But I just say we've sent our concerns into the proper authorities. So I'll just put it that way.
All right, we'll go Ben and then Lee.
Coach, Bielema's made it a point. A couple weeks ago, someone asked him, and he said, he's made it a point to recruit the DFW area pretty well and Texas really well. It's a point of emphasis. When it comes to games like this where y'all are competing over kids and recruiting, how important is it to win those games especially?
I don't know that one game affects recruiting like that. I've never believed that. So, I used to be at another school up north, and we used to come to the state fair and play every year. And, that game was probably the 5th game of the year. And it may have affected one guy, but it was the other 10 or 11, 12, 13 games that affected recruiting more than that one game. That makes sense? So, yeah, it has something to do with that day. But, in general, a neutral site game doesn't bring anything to the atmosphere of what your campus is about. It has everything to do with what's going on at that time and who wins that game, and particularly games this early. It's been my experience, even like I said, in the Red River Classic, you had 7 more games to play, and those other 11 games probably carry more weight than just that one football game.
Go to the back, Lee, and then we'll wrap it up with Brent down front.
Coach, I know you don't like to put a whole lot of stock into previous years, but the past two games against Arkansas and Jerry's World have been pretty exciting. I was wondering if there's something there between you two teams that make it be an exciting game. Is it possibly the relationship you have with Coach Bielema? You guys are so close, or is there anything there that you think makes it such a fun game?
Who said we were
guys?
that close?
I get the sense that you're pretty close. Am I off base there?
Since he said he was going to punch me last year at the end of the...
I was going to ask about that.
Close people don't punch each other, in case you were wondering. And, to that point, that was really kind of a joke, the way he said it. So, although I think I took it like a joke. I put it that way. So I don't think it was a real joke. But, no, he's, I got a lot of respect for him. And, the way he's come up through the coaching ranks, kind of similar to me, and a guy that was just, wasn't a great player. He'll be mad I said that because he wasn't a great player. He's all right. And but going through the Big Ten, he's at K-State. A lot of the similar trees, similar people that we've known because of Bob Stoops and because of my relationship with the guys at K-State, and then. Just what he's done. He got a job at a young age at Wisconsin, and won championships, and came into our league and with a philosophy that really people early probably were concerned about how they were playing football. But here's a guy who really believes in what he's doing and has really built a program now that's a top 20 program. And so, yeah, I've got a lot of respect for how they do things, But do we want it to be as exciting as it's been? Probably not, unless we win, and it can be as exciting as you want it to be. So, it's a great atmosphere, and a lot of our guys that you grow up in this state and for years, the last few years, they played a state championship game there. It's one of the best venues in the world. And when teams are like this. You know, when you get two top 20 teams are going to play, it can be really, really loud in there. And the biggest thing that I had to learn in this game was to not watch the Jumbotron the whole time, just like everybody else. And you get used to that and watching the game. It's a great place to play. Our players like to play there. And obviously, Jerry being an Arkansas guy, it's kind of important to him too. So a lot at stake, but particularly in this game. But as I said before, and I said this last week, no matter what happens Saturday, there's a lot of football to be played. And our guys have approached every week with the same demeanor of getting better and trying to be 1 week better and winning this game. And, I like where our team's at. I like their demeanor. I like their approach. And this week is not going to be any different.